it's always the little things, and that's where we have to put the focus as the Orlando Magic fall to the Utah Jazz. But it's not the big play. It's the plays that come before. Always is, always will be. And this Orlando Magic team is still searching for some of those big plays all the time. We're going to dive into a loss to the Utah Jazz. We'll get to it coming up here on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is January 14th, 2023. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the expert and site editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Orlando Magic fall to the Utah Jazz. And they fell to the Utah Jazz on one big play, but several big plays that came before it. How the Orlando Magic kind of get themselves right and find consistency. We're going to dive into that coming up on today's episode. Before we do any of that, though, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, this great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. To search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is also brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. Before we get into this episode, I just want to apologize to my YouTube watchers, YouTube viewers. I don't know what they call it, but if you consume this podcast on YouTube, I want to apologize for Friday's episode not delivering in full. I decided to publish the whole thing just because something's better than nothing, and I think I got most of the first point that I was trying to make in there. So at least gives you a taste of what I was trying to say. Just a reminder to all my listeners, we post the video to YouTube. We also post the audio to our Megaphone account, so it gets out to all the podcast outlets and providers. So if something ever happens, I had a computer issue when I published the podcast this morning. The video was somehow my video file got corrupted, but the audio was perfectly fine. And so the whole audio podcast is available wherever you download podcasts. So for my YouTube listeners, the podcast should still be good. It's about the second quarter of the season, looking ahead to the third quarter of the season. Not impacted by tonight's game against the Utah Jazz at all. So if you missed yesterday's episode or you're a YouTube watcher and you're like, where's the last 20 minutes of my Locked On Magic content? I need that Locked On Magic content. That sweet, sweet Locked On Magic content. You can find that wherever you download podcasts. Again, I'm here to. I apologize for the mix-up and for the error there. I'm actually getting ready. I will make a more formal announcement when it happens, but I'll probably be taking some time off because I have to send my computer in to get fixed. So there may be a little bit of fallow period. I think it's going to be during the time off next week, so it'll at least not coincide with any games or anything like that. But I'll still be available and still hopefully get some things out. We'll see how much I'm able to do. But I just want to get that out there, just acknowledge that there's boo-boo on my end and tell you where to find the podcast. But let's dive into it because this game against Utah Jazz had everything. I'm not good at coming up with Stefan everythings because I am not that kind of person, but it had everything. But the play everyone is focusing on is the one that came at the very, very end. The Magic trailed by 1 point after Franz Wagner missed a three-pointer that would have given the Magic the lead. Obviously given them the lead, but was a quick three-pointer trying to play the 2-for-1. The Magic fouled and sent Colin Sexton to the line. Sexton proceeded to miss both free throws. And of course, all you have to do at that point is get the rebound. But that is not what happened. Walker Kessler was able to get over the back of Mo Bamba. I don't think it was a foul, but the way this game was officiated, oh my God. But Walker Kessler was able to dig out the rebound, make one of his two free throws, make his two free throws, give Utah a 3-point lead, and put the Magic in a position with about 11 seconds to go where they had to take a three. They didn't have to take a three, but they did end up taking a three. Franz Wagner's three was blocked by Lauri Markkanen. The Jazz were able to go to the other end, ice the game, and win the game 112-108. All the chatter, as it always is, whenever there's a late game gaffe like this, and look, Mo Bamba was not the only late game gaffe here. The Magic had some bad defensive possessions after they rallied from a 12-point deficit with about 5 minutes to play to take the lead at one point and seesaw back and forth into the lead with the Jazz at the end of this game. There were a lot of mistakes made. And that is... those mistakes become bigger when the game is on the line, when the game is in the balance, when the game is about to be decided. Look, the Magic should have gotten a rebound. You should get rebounds off of free throws. There's no excuse ever to give up an offensive rebound off a free throw. That is just about effort, technique, and desire. Walker Kessler wanted to win this game more than any player on the court, both teams. Walker Kessler was everywhere all night. He set a tone defensively with the block shots that he had. The Magic were struggling to get to the line, struggling to even attack the paint because of Walker Kessler. He had 7 blocks in the game. That dude affected the game in every way. And I was unsure if he had the mobility to play that way because he did all this at Auburn too last year. I was unsure if he had the mobility to play this way in the NBA. He does. So he shut up a lot of people who wondered what his impact would be on an NBA floor. And he is a true rim protector and someone that you have to account for and have to know how to attack and attack smartly. And frankly, the Magic didn't attack him smartly most of the night. But Kessler was everywhere. It wasn't just his block shots. He was rebounding like crazy and beating the Magic to loose balls. Ochai Agbaji was beating the Magic to loose balls on several occasions. Lauri Markkanen obviously was beating the Magic to loose balls. As poorly as Orlando played and as poorly as Utah played, Utah out-rebounded Orlando 60-40 in this game. It was not because of missed shots. What happened at the end of the game is a bad play. And it comes in a big spot, and it's easy to highlight that. But that was a bad play that happened throughout the course of the game. That was a bad play that was normal in this game. Because every time it felt like Orlando was about to kind of climb back into this game, they were playing uphill all game long because they had a poor defensive first quarter, poor offensive first quarter, to be perfectly honest. They were climbing uphill all game long. Every time it felt like Orlando was about to climb up over that hill, Utah would get a turnover. Orlando would take a bad three-pointer. They'd get a blocked shot. They'd get an offensive rebound, get a second chance, bury a three, and make that 5-point deficit an 8-point one, or a 6-point deficit a 9-point deficit. Orlando was really, really struggling to find their center and find themselves in this game, and Utah was simply the more aggressive team. Look, Utah deserved to win this game. We could complain about the officiating, and it was inconsistent as hell. It was a really inconsistent game officiating-wise. Orlando couldn't get to the line, even though they were getting plenty of contact. One of Walker Kessler's blocks was a goaltend. It's not up for debate. It hit a Franz Wagner shot early in the first quarter, hit the backboard. Walker Kessler cleaned it up after that. Should have been called a goaltend. Instead, it was just a foul, and Wagner ended up missing both free throws. And honestly, that play perfectly encapsulates this game. Walker Kessler makes a great energy play. The officials made a bad call against the Magic, not in the Magic's favor, and the Magic didn't take advantage of it anyway. That play honestly encapsulates so much of this game, and it's not that Franz Wagner did, because Franz Wagner was fantastic throughout the course of the game, but this was just Utah being the ones in charge. I talked about this after Monday's loss to the Sacramento Kings. Orlando cannot be successful if they are not the aggressors. Orlando needs to be getting downhill, needs to be getting in the paint. And we saw some of that throughout the course of this game. Orlando was down bad. They were down 11 with about 5 minutes to play. Down 11, 12 points with 5 minutes to play. And then all of a sudden, it all clicked into place. They defended well. They scrambled well. They got stops, they got turnovers, they got out in transition, they started hitting threes, the ball started moving in, out, to the foul, getting to the foul line, getting three-pointers. For the first half of the second quarter, when Orlando cut an 11-point deficit down to 3 with their bench unit, the first 3-4 minutes of the third quarter, when the Magic were just scrambling and flying around defensively to cut cut into the lead again. And then that final, maybe from the 6-minute mark of the fourth quarter to about the 1.5-minute mark of the fourth quarter, Orlando played this incredible basketball game with incredible effort, incredible energy, incredible attention to detail that cut into the lead and gave them a real chance to win this game. They were up 1. So despite everything working against them, despite all the mistakes they made, they had a chance to win. And honestly, that is something. Franz Wagner even said it after the game, we did not play our best game today. They still had every chance to win. And that's what makes the little things all the more important. That's what makes securing an offensive rebound all the more important. That's what makes taking a good three, because the Magic took some bad threes in this game, both in the first half when they fell behind and then in crunch time. They might have been going for a 2-for-1. Franz Wagner took an ill-advised three with the Magic down by 1. Not a good shot. It just not a good shot. It was a quick shot. They could have worked for a better shot. They had 2 timeouts. There's just a lot they could have done better. They were gunning for Terrence Ross a ton, and he missed open shots, to be perfectly honest. Or he didn't get open shots, or he didn't get open looks, and the Magic were trying to force feed it to him. This was a game of accumulated mistakes. It wasn't one big mistake. It was accumulated mistakes. And it's the kind of game that does make you think about what this team is missing. Because they don't have a Walker Kessler. They don't have a guy who is just a specialist, elite at something, and just does it at a really high level and gives the whole team energy. Yeah, he didn't give you much offensively, but his shot block, his blocks energized the crowd, energized this team. And Orlando is kind of looking for that Energizer Bunny a little bit. In the end, you don't want to make a mountain out of a molehill. As bad and as terrible as this loss feels, as bad and as terrible as this moment feels for the Magic, it's just one game. But the problem is, right now with this Magic team, we don't know what to expect night to night. And that's the part that has to change. And that's the part this team needs to figure out. We're going to look into that coming up here in just a moment. But first, a quick word from our pals at LinkedIn. As a small business owner or hiring manager, you know that success in 2023 all depends on the team members you surround yourself with. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. LinkedIn Jobs helps you quickly attract qualified candidates to your open jobs with targeting tools. They go beyond resume data by using insights from your job post, company, and their 875 million member profiles to put your post in front of the most qualified candidates. Identify the most qualified candidates on LinkedIn Jobs and connect with them fast and for free. LinkedIn Jobs makes it easy to screen and rate applicants based on your job qualifications, all on one platform. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. If you did listen to the full episode from Friday, and again, available wherever you download podcasts, Apple Music, Spotify. I don't just say that at the end of the show. That's literally where the show can be found. If you're just a YouTube watcher, if you're listening on the podcast, hey, you get the full experience all the time, anyways. But if you listen to that show, you will know that my word for the third quarter of the season is, besides winning, is consistency. What I want to see from the Orlando Magic is to build winning consistently. To be a team that is able to put wins together and play competitive basketball deep into the season. That's what I want to see. That's what's most important for this team to develop and grow in the way that they want to develop and grow. That's what matters for this Orlando Magic team is they have to find their consistency. What are they good at every single night? And as interesting as this team has been, this game is a perfect example of how this team is still lacking consistency and lacking, maybe a little bit of a firm identity and a little bit of an established idea of what they're trying to do every night or what they hang their hat on. Jamal Mosley and everyone on the roster will tell you that they want to hang their hat on defense. And that has been the goal for a long time with this franchise, but that has been the goal for this group. And it's a goal that has had lots of fits and starts. And Friday's game against the Utah Jazz was no different. In one instance, the Magic looked like a defensive juggernaut, rotating and stopping dribble penetration, scrambling, keeping drivers from getting too deep in the lane with early shows, with early help, scrambling out to protect the three-point line, getting deflections with their length. It is very, very easy in extended stretches, honestly, to see how good this team can be defensively and to see what this team's defensive potential could be. Then again, this team will go through long stretches where they can't keep anyone out of the lane, where they foul a ton. Lauri Markkanen took 21 free throws. That's 5 more than the entire Magic team, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Where they struggle to get offensive rebounds. The Magic are 13th in the league in defensive rebound rate. So I would hardly describe the Magic as a bad rebounding team. They're about league average. It's been dropping of late, but they're about league average in terms of rebounding. Having said that, they've had a lot of games where they give up a ton of offensive rebounds and second chance points. They've had a ton of games where they give up timely rebounds. Timely rebounds like the one they gave up at the end of this game Friday. The Magic are more than capable of rebounding and rebounding well. They're more than capable of defending and defending well. They're more than capable of doing a lot of things that good teams do. But right now, they are not doing them consistently. And again, this week is a great example of that. In Saturday's win over the Golden State Warriors, the Magic played perhaps their best defensive game of the year. I don't care who played or who wasn't playing for the Warriors that night. They were impressive defensively. They made Golden State a purely perimeter shooting team. No paint touches, no kickouts, just hoisting up threes. And that's a win for the Magic. They dominated that game. Their offense wasn't great, and they still won very comfortably in that and on the road to open this road trip. Then you go to Monday night in Sacramento. They're giving up tons of paint penetration. They're giving up tons of open three-pointers. And yeah, Sacramento hit some tough threes, but they gave up 26 three-pointers and just got absolutely worked. Then the next night in Portland, their defense is much more dialed in. They're playing with more energy, more urgency. The ball is zipping around the perimeter a lot better. They get critical stops. And yeah, on that last play, that mad scramble of a play, they give up 2 offensive rebounds, but they contest and challenge three-pointers to escape with the win. Having said that, they had their shaky moments on offense where they turned the ball over a lot, where the starters dominated the game. The bench nearly gave it away. That was the reality of that game. And the reality of Friday's game against Utah was Orlando struggled to contain Lauri Markkanen. They struggled to keep Walker Kessler off the boards. And despite some really brilliant defensive moments and offensive moments and plenty of signs that show that this team is capable of winning at a decently high level against a pretty decent team. Like Utah's still a 500 team in the West. Like they're not going anywhere at this point. Despite all that, the Magic still made critical errors. And at the end of the day, you just didn't know what to expect from them. Here's the thing about Utah. Utah knows who they are. They shoot a lot of threes. And a big reason why Orlando came back in the game is Utah missed 11 consecutive threes in the second and early third quarters. Orlando deserves a lot of credit because of the way they contested the paint and defended the paint and contested those three-point shots. They are good enough to hold down one of the best offensive teams in the league to a pretty reasonable number. But they couldn't do it all night. And when the stakes were the highest, they made some critical errors that they made throughout the course of the game. They didn't learn their lessons. The story of this next stretch of games, or the story of this next quarter of the season, is indeed consistency. Can the Magic do things consistently? Can they be a good rebounding team consistently? Can they be a paint defending team consistently? Can they be an offensive team at all consistently? Can they make their shots consistently? Can they be consistent in the way that they approach and drive the lane and make plays and kickouts? They show moments of it all the time, and for longer and longer stretches, so that consistency is coming. But if the Magic want to accomplish the goals they want to accomplish, if the Magic want to be that surprise team in the play-in tournament this year, they've got to do it more consistently. And that's the word coming out of this loss to the Jazz. To simply be more consistent. We're going to go through the final box score for you real fast to end today's show. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, a quick word from our pals at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional amateur league out there, from pro football to the NBA to college basketball and much more. They've got it all at BetOnline.net. You can still get your Rookie of the Year odds on Paolo Banchero. Even after this game, he is still the prohibitive favorite. Sorry, Walker Kessler, as good as you are. You are not the favorite at this point. But you can still get that action if you want. You can look at the NFL games this weekend as well at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts too, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. They're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, so let's run through the final box score for you real fast as the Orlando Magic fall to the Utah Jazz 112 to 108. Look, let's get to the numbers that matter. Orlando's out-rebounded 59 to 40, 60 to 40. I saw the count on there. Utah with 22 second chance points, only 7 for 15 on second chance points, but 17 offensive rebounds for Utah, 7 of them from Walker Kessler. Two from Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton, Ochai Agbaji, and Jared Vanderbilt each. Look, the 7 offensive rebounds from Walker Kessler were killer. At the end of the day, though, Walker Kessler a -1 on the plus-minus pool. So, again, he was a major impactor in this game. This is where plus-minus doesn't tell you the whole story. Each of those offensive rebounds were run killers. Obviously, there was the one at the end, but they were all run killers. He had 7 blocks in the game. That was just a momentum killer. That was just those were just moments that made the Magic doubt their attack and, again, lower their aggression levels and lower their confidence levels shooting in the paint. That's such a key for this Orlando Magic team. Orlando still gets 50 points in the paint, but they shoot just 25 for 52 in the paint. If the Magic shoot, kind of their regular percentage in the paint, shooting sub 50% in the paint, that's not a winning formula. That's how you lose a lot of games. Having said that, 50 points in the paint kept the Magic in this one. They did make 14 threes. They did outshoot the Utah Jazz, which is a really impressive thing to do. But they shoot just 42 for 96 overall. 36 of their 96 field goal attempts from three-point land, 52 of 96 in the paint. They shoot their regular percentage in the paint. If they're a little bit more aggressive, sort of in the paint, they very well might win this thing. And so, again, you're looking at little margins. When you lose close games, like the Magic did here, they're losing games in the margins. You're losing games on these little things, on one play, one shot, one rebound, one free throw, one everything. That's where things matter. Utah was sloppy in this one. They shot just 43.4% from the floor. They were able to attack the glass, but they turned the ball over 24 times for 24 Orlando points. That helped keep Orlando in the game too. Orlando had 26 fast break points, but just 10 for 21 on fast breaks as well. So again, there's just these little things that are just inconsistent that if the Magic are better, more attentive, more focused on, they get a win. It doesn't matter how poorly they played, they get a win. And that's really, again, such a key part of the story here for the Orlando Magic. They're led in scoring by Franz Wagner, 26 points, 10 for 20 shooting, 5 for 10 from deep, 5 rebounds for him, 4 steals as well, no turnovers Franz Wagner was just really, really good. Had his shot going early. Some awkward finishes. He was 1 for 3 from the foul line. He should be getting to the foul line at least 5, 6. I don't think he's Paolo good, but Paolo's still averaging around 8 free throw attempts per game. But he should be getting to the line 5, 6 times per game. If there is one thing that I have to say Franz Wagner needs to continue improving on, it is getting to the foul line, seeking contact out. Not trying to finish around guys, but trying to finish through guys. And again, when you're dealing with a shot blocker like Walker Kessler, you got to be the one to hit first. You got to hit him first. You got to make him make contact with you before he can get to the ball and kind of knock him off balance. The Magic did not do a good job with that. Wendell Carter had some moments with that. Mo Wagner, much less consistent with that. But you've got to be the one to make contact and really push him off the block. Franz was fantastic, 26 points, plus 14 in the game. In the game you lose by 4 and are trailing for most of the game. Franz Wagner kept this team in the game. I will not have much bad to say other than just the general thing that he needs to continue working to get more contact. Paolo Banchero, a decent game, 19 points, 8 for 16 shooting, just 1 for 5 from deep, only 4 rebounds. He did foul out. He had 4 turnovers as well. Paolo definitely settled in this game. Wasn't able to get to the basket as much. He was at his best when he was getting to the basket. Get to the paint, live in the paint, my dude. The 3-point shooting, you need him taking it, so I'm not going to be so upset with that. The big thing with him, and this is a big thing with everyone, the Magic need a second rebounder. Wendell Carter is the only one rebounding right now. Wendell Carter is the only one consistently getting boards. They need a second rebounder. Wendell Carter, for the record, 19 points, 10 rebounds, 4 offensive rebounds. Really, really active on the glass. He had to guard Lauri Markkanen most of the night. Him and Franz Wagner kind of tag teamed on Lauri Markkanen to very mixed effect. But the biggest mistake the Magic made, honestly, if we're going to go to focus on clutch time, the biggest mistake was not having Wendell Carter box out Walker Kessler and relying on Mo Bamba to do it. Mo Bamba is not a good rebounder. He ends up with 4 rebounds in the game, including 2 offensive rebounds. So he will get his share. He will get his numbers, but he is not a good rebounder. And that is still a major problem for this team. Again, I don't think by the numbers, rebounding is not an issue. Rebounding is an issue for this team. In big moments against big players, when the Magic do not have the size advantage, rebounding is a problem. And again, it's not that Orlando is big; they are tall. They can handle most teams with their size and their length. A team like Utah with Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler, with kind of that traditional 4-5 lineup, those teams can give them problems because they don't play with the physicality they always need. Wendell Carter I thought was plenty physical. I'm not going to hit him on that, but I would say a lot of other players really struggled on that front. Markelle Fultz, this was honestly Markelle Fultz's worst game of the season, I think. 8 points, 4 for 9 shooting, 0 for 2 from deep. 6 assists, 4 turnovers. Just honestly, he turned it on in the fourth quarter when the Magic started making their run and made some really nice plays, but and I think he was engaged and fighting defensively, at least when he was on the ball. Off the ball, both he and Paolo, I thought, really struggled tracking their shooters at times. But I would say the problem with Fultz in this game was it was just too the attention to detail wasn't there. That's the best way I could put it. From what I saw, Fultz wasn't super. Not that he was engaged. I don't know what the right word is to say, but something was off. He wasn't running the team as well as he typically does, and wasn't making the best decisions all night. It just felt like it was kind of a lazy game in some respects. I got to shout out Mo Bamba. I know he made the big mistake at the end. 5 points, 4 rebounds, though. He made some really big plays before giving up that rebound to Walker Kessler. And again, rebounding is a Mo Bamba weakness. He needs to be a better rebounder. Plain and simple. He needs to be a better rebounder. That is a huge weakness for him. It's always been a huge weakness for him. He did a lot, but he still did a lot of good things. He got the late call. Played the entire fourth quarter, so maybe some fatigue there too. because Bol Bol was pretty ineffective. 4 points, 2 for 7 shooting, not really active defensively, not really using his length to change shots. Was essentially shooting a ton for most of this game. But just Mo Bamba gave them really good minutes at the end. Was a key part of the run that helped the Magic get back in the game. I don't think one bad box out should break that, but again, it was a big play and it was an inexcusable play. You got to get that rebound. Again, Orlando shoots 43.8% from the floor, 38.9% from three-point land. The problem in this game was the free throw line. Orlando just 10 for 16 from the foul line, and that's a problem on two fronts. First, Orlando is a really good free throw shooting team. They're shooting about 80. They're shooting the low 80s in free throw percentage. To miss 6 free throws is really, really tough. To miss 6 free throws when you don't get to the line as much as you're used to getting to is a huge problem. A huge problem. And Orlando has to get to the line. And I will agree with most. This was a terribly officiated game. I could go over the number of fouls. Orlando was called for 25 fouls in this game. Utah was called for just 18. I find it really hard to believe that the team that is 5th in the league in free throw rate isn't getting fouled with the amount of times they go to the basket. A team that's shooting 52 field goal attempts in the paint, I am having a hard time believing that team didn't get fouled a little bit more and shouldn't have been at the line a little bit more. Lauri Markkanen shot 21 free throws by himself, 17 for 21. And look, the Magic fouled him. I don't think they were necessarily bad calls. I think that there were some very soft calls. I think there's a lot of touch fouls and a lot of fouls that weren't getting called necessarily on the Magic's end. But the Magic did not get the benefit of the whistle tonight. And there were some real iffy calls. I have to say, I don't blame the refs for the loss. The Magic lost this game. They didn't need the refs' help to lose this game. But boy, there were some really questionable calls. The goaltend in the first quarter, Walker Kessler, almost one of his blocks was almost certainly a goaltend. Franz Wagner shot it off the backboard, was fouled. Kessler blocked a shot. It wasn't, I guess, because it was foul, wasn't recorded as a block, but it was a clear goaltend. Should have been 2 points in free throws. Instead, Franz Wagner misses both free throws. 4-point game. That play kind of mattered. It was kind of an important play that snuck under the radar. It's stuff like that. It is things like that. And you could just see the Magic getting very frustrated because they were getting to the basket. They were doing all the things they normally do, and they weren't getting to the foul line. I would say Orlando didn't adjust to how the officials were calling it. I would say that the officials called it very inconsistently. All you ask for from officials is define what a foul is and call it the same way the whole game. By the end of the game, there were touch fouls that weren't being called in the first quarter that were being called all of a sudden and constantly. It was a very, very disjointed game, and I don't know what the answer is to that. I certainly agree that there were a few calls that I would have liked to see Jamal Mosley go pick up a technical foul for, and let the officials know that you got to call the game fair and just kind of wake them up to that, even if it costs you a couple $1,000s. It was frustrating, and honestly, and this is the part of the problem with having a young team. This is part of the problem with the Magic right now, is that frustration wore on their faces. Why did Utah build an 11-point lead in the first quarter, have a 9-point lead out of the first quarter? It was because the Magic were frustrated that they weren't getting the calls that they've become accustomed to getting to, that they rely on to score consistently. And so that is, again, something this Magic team has to have. I know I've said this before, I think, on the pod. The Magic have to find a way to diversify their offensive attack. They rely too much on things they can't control. Fouling, free throws are things they cannot control. They get to the paint a lot, and they did that in this game against Utah, but obviously not nearly effective enough. Again, I don't want to harp on the officiating too much. It was not a well-officiated game, in my opinion. Utah still deserved to win the game. Orlando lost this game. The refs were the refs. The Magic learned how to live with it. They gave themselves a chance to win. They had the lead late. They needed to execute. They needed to make shots at the end of the day. That's all that matters. That's how you win basketball games. You don't win it because the officials made bad calls. At the end of the day, officials made right calls. The Jordan Clarkson thing was a flagrant foul. I thought that was 100% the right call. I did not think he kicked his leg out. That was 100% the right call. The Magic cost themselves this game with, again, those little plays that built up over the course of time. Lauri Markkanen leads Utah with 28 points. Jordan Clarkson with 23 on 8 for 21 shooting clean, 1 for 8 from beyond the arc. Again, this is the difference in the game. Rebounds. Markkanen had 12 rebounds. Jordan Clarkson had 12 rebounds. Walker Kessler had 9 rebounds. Jared Vanderbilt had 9 rebounds. Utah was just much more active and first to the ball off the glass. That's going to help you win basketball games. That's going to help you make up for a really poor three-point shooting effort, an uncharacteristically poor three-point shooting effort. For one of these teams, it was going to be a game where they won when they didn't do the things they normally do to win. Utah was the one that had more points at the end, and that's why they won the game. The Magic will close this road trip out on Sunday against the Denver Nuggets. We'll have coverage of that game on our next episode of Locked On Magic. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. You can, of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the fun places and a lot of podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can, of course, follow us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. Now that you're done listening to us, be sure to check out the Game to Game NBA podcast. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Monday through Friday, Locked On Game to Game covers every game from across the NBA with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game to Game on Locked On NBA, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. That's good, dude, for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. For Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman Mike. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.